Thank you, Senator Rosen. But I think, Mr. Feld, that's a phenomenon all the way across our economy, isn't it? Because what used to be a career that a person could have for 30 or 40 years in our society, the technology is changing so much, and the economy is changing so much that we're going to have several careers. Do you have anything you'd like to?
Well, I would like to put in a plug for the Digital Equity Act, which tries to address some of that concern with regard to providing opportunities for training across a wide range of digital opportunities where these skills that are needed can be developed and transferred from one career to the next. So I believe that, yes, you're right, this is a very common problem. Fortunately, there are some good solutions in the pipeline.
Great. And boy, for those truckers, 10-year career and then moving on to something that might pay even more might not be so bad. Commissioner Carr, in your written testimony, you mentioned a number of success stories. Houston, Cincinnati, these are big towns. Then you mentioned places where you might not expect such success in 5G. Sioux Falls, South Carolina, Elkmont, Alabama. What suggestion would you make to a not-so-big town so that they might have the same type of success that you have pointed to in your written testimony?
Thanks, Senator, for the question. I think that highlights, the finish line for us is every single community getting next-gen connectivity. And to your point, we've established guardrails at the federal level that build on those infrastructure policies that a lot of those state and local leaders that are seeing successes have put in place. So we put guardrails at the federal level that reflect that. And I would simply encourage a lot of state and local governments that want to see 5G, that want to see the economic opportunity to continue to update and modernize their approach to infrastructure builds. That'll go a long way.
All right. Mr. Miller, I want to make sure you've come a long way for this testimony. I want to make sure that, that you've said all you need to say, but let me start off by asking you about the challenge in getting young people trained to work in your company and in your field. And then what is the challenge in keeping them there? How long does it take to take someone who's interested, get them into one of these programs and get them started making a good living? And then what's the problem what are our challenges in losing them?
Thank you, Senator. First off, the majority of the training initially for anybody in the wireless industry is safety. So it's a high-risk industry. Working at heights is not normal. It takes a special person to do that. So, you're looking at least 2 weeks of climbing with somebody, climbing classes, rescue classes, basic rope techniques, basic rigging techniques. So everything we do up there, we have to carry up or get it up there somehow. So that's the first 2 weeks of it. Then you've got an employee that can assist you on a tower. After that, you move into the more technical details of it, whether it's line and antenna. I believe there is fiber optic cable on towers. So you deal into more of the technical aspects of it. But a thoroughly competent employee, skilled in this industry, 8 months to a year before they're really know it all.
But that's a relatively encouraging bit of testimony, actually, because it's not a terribly long time.
It's not. Some of the issues we do face is competing industries.
Okay, and that brings me to part two of my question.
Yes, sir.
So who's trying to hire these kids away from you?
Two things. First off, the height and the travel, and a lot of people are intrigued by this industry, but the travel versus family can start weighing on a person, and they may choose. That's one of our biggest hurdles is the travel aspect of this industry. Second to that is more glorified jobs that perhaps have less outdoor exposure. You get trapped on a tower at 300 feet when it rains, or the temperatures are like today. It can be a harsh environment to work in.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Now, Mr. Feld, you made a statement that I'd like for you to expand on, and that is the idea of working as collaborators rather than barriers. Tell the committee exactly, specifically what you're talking about, and what needs to happen and how can we help?
Oh, thank you. I would point to a program in West Virginia where they provide grants to local governments to do broadband planning and make ready. And what this allows is for the local community to pinpoint exactly what the needs are, who the potential collaborators are within the community. And therefore, when the discussion comes to providers, they are able to have informed discussions about what the concerns are, how to avoid those concerns, what assets the locality can contribute to make the deployment more economically viable and attractive. And it becomes a collaborative relationship where the issue is, look, we want to have these services, but we have very legitimate concerns. And if you put a microcell next to somebody's bedroom, they're going to call me, not the carrier. So those are the sorts of things that you want to see communities work out together with carriers to develop plans that make these an opportunity, and where carriers don't just come in and are trying to stick to their schedule, are not concerned about that call from an outraged voter, and make sure that things are done right.
Commissioner Carr, do you wish to elaborate on this issue of collaboration versus barrier?
Yeah, I think it's an important topic. At the end of the day, I think Senator Cantwell laid out, state and local governments are going to play a big role in determining the pace and nature of 5G build-out in this country. We've put some guardrails in place, as I noted, at the federal level. But at the end of the day, it comes down to good faith negotiations, reasonableness on both providers and individual communities and state and local governments to make sure the job gets done in those places. And we've seen a tremendous uptick in infrastructure build over the last few years, but we're not there yet. So we need to continue to see collaboration on those issues.
What if negotiation doesn't get you there?
There's some backstops that we put in place on federal law. But to be honest, there is a lot of communities and private sector builders that weren't able to bridge the gap in their negotiating positions. And since the FCC stepped in and built on some common sense local ideas, those gaps are being bridged. There are communities across the country now that have reasonable infrastructure policies in place that are a win-win for the local community and for the U.S. leadership in 5G. And I think we're going to continue to see that.
Thank you. Senator Cantwell, do you have further questions?